This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 67 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. Along the way, we give you some tips on how you can chase your own big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. On today's episode, our guest is Leland Jones. More about Leland in a moment. On Thursday, our guest is Andy Beckerman. He is a comedian, podcaster, writer, all-around funny guy. We talk about growing up Jewish in an Amish world and some new projects he's working on. It's a lot of fun. I think you're going to really enjoy the conversation. Make sure to check out that episode this coming Thursday. Hey there, friendly listener. Super excited to have you along for the ride. Whether this is the first time you've listened to the Jumblethink podcast or you've been along our journey since episode number 1, it's great to have you as a listener. I want to make sure you know that every Monday and Thursday we release new episodes, and we've got some incredible guests lined up for the future. If you haven't already, swing on over to iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcast, and subscribe so that you never miss one of our incredible guests. It's easy to do, and you'll never miss another episode. I am super excited about today's guest. His name is Leland Jones. He's an entrepreneur, CEO, founder, author, and speaker. He wrote a book called A Journey with Purpose, and he started a company called TQuotes. And he's done all of this at the young age of 18. It's pretty impressive, and he's a really great guy. So let's jump into today's interview with Leland Jones. Leland, thanks for joining the podcast today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Happy to be here, Michael.
I am super excited to have you on. You are officially our youngest guest.
Woo! Right on. That's awesome.
So you're 18, right?
Yes, I just turned 18.
Wow. Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You know, a lot of people look at young people. I'm 36, so got a few years on you, but they look at them and they go, oh, you know, they're just partiers. They're just, they're trying to figure out who they are or what they want to do and that kind of thing. And you seem to have kind of a roadmap figured out, what you like doing, who you are. And it just seems like you kind of know what you want to do in life.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to give credit to mostly my parents and how they raised me with this giving attitude. They kind of just always wanted me to provide value to others. And what I've found out is that the more value that you can provide to others, the more valuable you become. And so just kind of the way I've been raised was with this attitude of giving back. And then I kind of discovered, I looked at this timeline. I saw a timeline of life, and it really showed how people start out their early years from like 0 to 18 years old, and they're going to school, they're being kids, they're being teenagers, like you said. And then they hit their college years, and then they work for most of their life until retirement. And what I saw was I was reading this article, and it said that 12% of adults are happy and find purpose in their job.
Wow.
12%. So I was thinking, like, I don't want to be in that, that 82%,
club, yeah.
right? Like, I don't want to be there. I want to be in that 12%. I want to have purpose in what I'm doing. And then I saw this kid. His name's Caleb Maddox, and I saw him doing amazing things and just really inspiring the world. And he was 15 years old when I saw him, and I was so inspired. And he said something in one of his videos. He said, "What are you waiting on? Age is just a number. Get out there and start."
Okay.
And in that second, I was 17 years old when I saw that. I said, what am I waiting on? I'd always, as a kid, been entrepreneurial. I've always loved to build things and sell them and find ways to make money as a kid, lemonade stands, selling Pokemon cards, whatever it is. But then it just clicked for me. I was like, why don't I just start a company? I do speaking on the side. Like I've given speeches and I love public speaking. And through the Boy Scouts, like you mentioned, I'm an Eagle Scout. Through the Boy Scouts, I've been privileged with the opportunity to teach at some of the national leadership conferences,
Wow.
which are, I actually got to lead one with a staff of 21 other um, leaders, and I was in charge of that entire course. And there were students from over 12 different countries. It was in Okinawa, Japan, and I led the entire conference teaching leadership principles, whether it's goal setting, finding your vision, problem solving, setting SMART goals, conflict resolution, all these leadership tools. It's the same content they teach to Fortune 500 companies. And so I was like, why don't I teach this stuff commercially? Like, why don't I teach what I've been practicing for over 6 years? So I feel like, I've mastered some of this content. Why don't I teach that to schools, universities, other companies, and also putting on that 18-year-old twist, the 17-year-old twist, that I'm young, I'm motivated, and I know this stuff that is carrying me so far. And so I started getting on stage and I started speaking in front of people. I started doing my own leadership conferences where I'd have people sign up. They'd come for day-long events. And so I really just started doing that. And I came to one conclusion, and that is, I'm doing what I love to do. I'm teaching leadership skills. I'm doing public speaking. It's what I love to do. And I'm providing value to others.
Yeah.
And so I asked myself, what is my purpose? Like, why do I do what I do? What wakes me up in the morning? And so then that's where I wrote my book. That's why I wrote my book, is because it helps people identify what they want to do in their life. And so my book is called A Journey with Purpose, because fundamentally, a human with purpose is unstoppable. It makes the impossible possible when you understand what your purpose is in life. And so once I identified that, I had done some crazy things. I started a company. I have employees. I opened up my new brand, Multi Motivation. I wrote a book. I've gotten to travel the world and speak on stages in Japan, Singapore, the United States. And I've gotten to travel the world and do amazing things for ultimately doing what I love to do, providing value to others. And so I feel like I unlocked this secret at a young age, and now it's just up to me to give it back to other people.
Well, you talk about adding value to people. You talk about having a heart to give. Can you quantify what that looks like for you? What does adding value mean? How do you do it?
Absolutely. So I measure success in 3 ways. I measure success on how well you're doing in your relationships, and whether that's physical relationships or spiritually. I measure success on how well you're doing financially. And then I also measure success on how well you're doing physically. How's your physical health? And so when I measure success, I measure success on how you're doing in all 3 of those areas. So every single day I set goals in those 3 areas. And one thing I heard from a mentor, he said, learn, earn, and return every single day. So learn something new every day, whether you're watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading books, meeting with mentors. Learn something every day. Earn something every day. Always try to earn $1 some way or somehow, because although money isn't everything, money is what makes the world go round. And money is not what provides happiness, but money gives you opportunities and options. And so the last thing to that is return. Always give back. So that can mean many things. So to answer your question, returning or giving back and having that giving attitude it comes down to a few things. You can give back monetarily. So my company, TQuotes, is a clothing company. We are a corporate sponsor of the largest student-run philanthropy for cancer research in the world. And we've donated over $1,000 to cancer research. We're a corporate sponsor of that organization. It's Thon, located in Pennsylvania. And so that's one way you can give back monetarily. You can give back by providing insight, like you can mentor people. So I created this rule, and I talk about this in my book. It's called the 10-20-30-40 rule. And what that is 10% of the people that you surround yourself with should be people that you can mentor. These are the people that you should keep under your wing and get them to your level. And then the next thing is the 20-20. So you should surround yourself with 20% of the people should be people that kind of are the ones that look up to you, that come to you for advice, but you don't necessarily mentor them, but you can help them out. And then 30% of the people you should surround yourself with these are your accountability partners. These are the people that hold you accountable. They're on your level. They're the people you compete with. You say, hey, I have this book. I want to get it done by this date. Can you hold me accountable to that? They're the ones that you compete with. So, you say, hey, I'm going to make $1,000 this month, or okay, I'm going to make 2,000, and then you guys compete and keep each other on your toes. And then 40% should be people that you look up to, mentors, people that you want to either surpass or become and walk in their footsteps and learn from them. And so giving back could mean that, mentoring people and surrounding yourself with people that you can teach and tuck under your wing. And giving back ultimately comes down to how can you provide value? And what that means is, what can I offer to the world to give back? Because ultimately, like, one of the 3 key elements to finding your purpose is understanding what can you provide to the world. And that's what ultimately makes you valuable. So for me, it's teaching leadership skills. It's giving to homeless people. It's inspiring young entrepreneurs. So I go to schools for free, like free of charge. The same stuff that it would cost companies thousands of dollars, I give to schools for free, because I don't care about the money. I care about the impact. And I always put impact above income. And so it comes down to, once you find out what you love to do, how can you change the world? And so that's what I'm trying to do.
It's very cool. And we're going to get into some of those things a little bit further. I want to talk about what your purpose is and your journey to finding that. But first, you mentioned mentoring there, and you mentioned, you have kind of different layers of relationships. One of them are people in which you mentor, and one of those are people who mentor you. How do you find people that you want to mentor? Or are these people that approach you? How do you approach that? And then the second part of that question is how do you find people that will mentor you? How do you connect with them? How do you get into that relationship and approach that relationship so that you're getting around the right people? Sure.
So the first part of that is, how can you find people for you to mentor? So the way that I found people that I like to mentor are people that show initiative. The people that ultimately, they want something to do, but they have no idea how to do it.
Okay.
Those are the people that I'm looking for. When I'm looking to mentor someone, I want to know what is the one thing, if they could do one thing for their entire life and love doing it every single hour of the day, but they have no idea how to start and they have no idea where to begin. Those are the people I love to work with, because those are the ones that are seeking the answers. They're looking for what they can do next. And when I find that person, and I never seek them out. Somehow they're magnetic to me. They find me. And usually it comes after one of my speeches or one of the shows, or an event that I go to,
Yeah.
they'll come up to me, or even on social media. Social media is so powerful. They will reach out to me. They'll send me a message like, "Hey, I have this question," and then I'll be like, "Great, feel free to reach out." I say this when every single person that messages me, I say, "Great, come back to me if you ever need anything else." I always make sure I offer some, like, an extension. So if they ever want to, like, come back to me. And the people that follow up, those are the people that I love to mentor and work with. And so that's one way that I find them, or the people that just come up to me after shows. And also, you can reach out. Like, if you're looking to mentor someone, then you can go to things like groupmeet.com, and you can find other entrepreneurs. Probably, I mean, these could be your peers. They could be even older than you, younger than you, people that go to your school, your clubs, your sports, whatever it is. These are people that really are wanting to do something more with their life, but just don't know where to go. And if you know your purpose, if you understand what you're doing, and you can coach someone along, that's the best way to do it.
And then how do you find mentors that you want to be mentored by?
Right. So this is the big question. Like, this is one of the biggest things that can really change the amount of impact you can have in the world, is finding the right mentor. So this is the difficult one. You have to, in your mind, imagine what the ideal mentor looks like. And you can, I mean, this can be anybody. So I'll tell you, so this Caleb Maddox kid, right, that I was telling you about, I saw him in a video. And you know, he has millions of views, millions of followers. And I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get to meet Caleb Maddox or talk to Caleb Maddox. And so the one thing, if you want the right mentor, you have to understand who that is first. What does the ideal mentor look like? Then you have to find out how you can get to them.
Okay.
I've heard stories of people doing things as crazy as, like, they had a mentor in mind. They knew who they were. They knew where they lived. They ordered 50 pizzas to their house just so they could get their attention.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying order 50 pizzas to get a mentor,
Yeah.
but I did something similar to that. I reached out to Caleb Maddox. I like attacked his social media. I emailed him, Instagram message, Snapchat. I found out who his employees were, like who's helping this kid. I reached out to them. I reached out to his dad. I found his dad on social media. I bought one of his programs that was amazing. And then I messaged him, and then he finally started replying, like him and his dad. And then I started getting tips and tricks from him personally. I started, commenting on his live streams, and then he ended up following me on Instagram, and it ultimately came down to taking initiative. The one thing that I've come to learn is that the impossible can become possible. When I was reading and watching this kid with millions of followers and views, I thought it will be impossible for me to meet this kid. And now, I literally have conversations with him on social media.
Yeah.
And then I also have, and that's just, I mean, that's if you want to go big. Now, there's all kinds of mentors. A mentor can be, someone you don't even meet ever. It can be like, you can watch their videos, you can read their books. It can also be someone that you interact with on a daily or regular basis. And to find mentors that will do that, similar principle, you have to take initiative. You have to know what the ideal mentor looks like. But if you want to meet them. Like, go up to them, call them, email them, find out what they do as a career, find their email, and just start connecting with them. And what I've found is most successful people, as a matter of fact, every successful person I've met wants to help out in some way or another.
Yeah.
So if you reach out to them, even if they're not willing to meet with you right away, like every single day, which makes sense, like you got to build that relationship. But even if you reach out to them and maybe meet once, and then at that meeting say, hey, we should have a follow-up meeting in like 2 weeks. And then that follow-up meeting, you continue that conversation, and then you meet more and more and more. So one of my biggest mentors, his name is TC. I call him TC. Um, and great guy. And, he's super successful. He's an entrepreneur just like me. But, he has so much more experience. And so I would talk to him. I'd message him. When I first wanted to connect with him, he came to my school for an event, and I was one of all of the students there to go up to him and actually meet him, and I was the only one that got his business card.
Okay.
I kept that business card until I was ready to email him with an idea. And so I finally got the nerve and I emailed him, and now to this day, I mean, we message all the time. We're always talking about ideas. We're starting a daughter company together now. So, it really comes down to find out who the ideal mentor looks like and then take initiative to get there. Yeah.
That's really good. Before we jumped on the interview, you were talking about you recently relocated to Alaska. You're going into school to, of course, do the college thing, and I want to dive into purpose, but first I want to ask you about passion. What are the things that you're passionate about, that excite you, that you just, you talked about before we were on the interview, part of the reason you moved to Alaska is because you loved the outdoors and you wanted to learn in a place that was surrounded by the outdoors. What are the things that make you just like excited because you're passionate about them?
Sure. Absolutely. So, and this is vital in understanding your purpose. You got to understand, like, it's all, before I jump into that question, it's all about self-awareness, understanding who you are as a person, and being able to like even write out lists of who you are, and really being self-aware. So things that I'm passionate about. So passion is something you love to do and you're good at.
Right.
So to keep it simple, I'd list out all the things that I love to do and I'm good at. So that's a multitude of things. I love to play guitar and ukulele and other instruments, and I'm relatively good at it. I love to be in the outdoors, go hiking, go on long backpacking trips. I've hiked over 500 miles. I love just like being in the outdoors and just being in the environment that is just, you can't get better than being in the outdoors, in my opinion. I love to coach and mentor people. I love to do motivational speaking. I love being out there and being able to provide value. And ultimately, one of my favorite things to do is give back. Like, the feeling of giving back surpasses summiting any mountain that I've ever been to the top of. It surpasses any amazing song that I've ever played or listened to or written. The feeling of giving back is something I'm truly passionate about, and I would say is one of the things that inspires me to wake up, and that plays more into finding my purpose. So we'll get into that when we talk about purpose, but things that I'm passionate about is just things that I love to do and I'm good at. So I love outdoors. I love being with people. I love speaking. Networking is fun. I like growing my social media. That's something I've just started and I'm enjoying. So yeah, just my hobbies really.
That's really cool. You talked about finding your purpose and that was a significant thing in your journey. And you mentioned finding your why. I don't know if you got that from the Simon Sinek thing or his book Start with Why, or if that's just something you've discovered on your own journey. Talk about your why and your purpose, the journey to discovering it, and what your purpose that you found so far is to be.
Sure. So yeah, I love Simon Sinek. He's got some great content. I've actually heard it from so many other sources, and before I even heard about Simon, I actually kind of I saw this thing from Stanford. There's the Stanford D School or something like that. And they created this diagram. It's called the purpose diagram, and it was like this Venn diagram of 4 different questions, and it said, what is something you love to do? In another circle is what are the things that you're good at. The other thing was what is something you can make money doing, and the other thing was what is something you can do to change the world, or what is something that you can do to give back to the world. What does the world need? And so I saw that purpose diagram, and it really resonated with me. I was like, if I could figure out what my purpose is in life, that would change everything. Like, why would I waste time going to school getting a degree in something that I don't know if I want to do that or not?
Right. Yeah.
You know, like, or getting a 9 to 5 job and then just so I can pay the bills and put food on the table. Like, I feel like there's more to life than that, you know? So it really resonated with me, and I spent so much time on that Venn diagram. I spent up like 6 months working on that Venn diagram and really finding out what my purpose is in life. And so when identifying it, it's that simple. You have to ask it. I broke it into 3 questions instead of 4. I just combined 2. I said, what is something you love to do and you're good at? Okay, and that's like you said, that's passion, right?
Yeah.
And that can be an extensive list. That can be up to like 30 different things, even more. I think I wrote out like 68 things, what I love to do and I'm good at. And then you got to ask yourself the second thing. And I broke this into columns. So I literally got out a piece of paper. I drew 2 lines, 3 columns, and I said, what do I love to do and I'm good at? And I listed out all of those things. Then the next question I said, what is something I'm willing to do to make money? And then I listed out all those things. And it was everything. I mean, it was like mowing lawns. It was flipping things from thrift stores and selling them on eBay. It was coaching. It was working part-time jobs. It was all kinds of things. And I just listed them all out. And then I said, what does the world need? And those were the 3 columns, and I just listed it all out. And so when identifying my purpose, I just had to ask myself those things. What do I love to do I'm good at? What can I make money doing? And what does the world need? And one thing that kind of synced through all 3 of those things was mentorship and leadership.
Okay.
It was something I love to do and I'm good at. It was something that I could get paid being like the world needs leadership, and it was something I could get paid. I could get paid to mentor, like teaching, right?
Yeah.
Like a teacher could get paid to, right? So I listed out those things, and I found mentoring, teaching, leadership in all 3 of those categories. And what can I do to change the world is give back. And how do I do that? By, teaching these skills. That's one way to give back. And then from the money that comes from it, I can do things like donate to charities, like for the cancer research, the corporate sponsorship that I created. All these amazing things that come from it. So it's like this chain reaction. Once you get that pinnacle moment of finding your purpose and how you can give back to change the world, then you can start to do things like donate and give back and treat your family to dinner or whatever it is. You have the capability to do so. So I think I broke away from the question, but
That's fine.
but finding my purpose, it's that you got to ask yourself those 3 questions. And once you identify it, that can literally change your life. I encourage people to spend, once you find out your purpose, like by definition, your purpose is something you love to do, you're good at, you can change the world, and you can get paid doing it. I ask people, like, what are you wasting your time on?
Yeah.
Like what are you doing? Because that's one of the number 1 questions I get as an 18-year-old in school, full-time, running 2 companies, being a published author, doing all these things, going to speaking gigs. I get asked, how do you have the time to do it? And I tell you, like, I'm not working. Like, this is what I love to do, right? And this has been proven that you make time for the things you enjoy doing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
If you love going to the park, you're going to make time to go to the park. Okay? And so I'm doing what I love to do. And it just so happens that it's my career. It's what I love to do. And so I tell people, like, if I have to work a late night, that's fun, right? Like, when I get up at 4:45 every single morning, I jump out of bed. I'm excited,
Wow. Okay.
Like I'm ready to start, doing things like getting on podcasts, or like tomorrow I'm going on TV. First thing in the morning, I'm waking up at 4:45. At 5:45 tomorrow morning, I'm going to the studio and I'm going to be on TV at 6:30 tomorrow morning. So, those are things that like I love to do that. I love to get up. I get out of bed, I'm energized, I'm pumped and excited to go do these things. And because it's what I love to do, right? So, and I encourage people, like, what are you wasting your time on? Come on, are you crazy? Like, you've found out the secret to life.
Yeah.
Like, the big question people always ask is, what's the meaning of life? Well, my answer to that is, what are you providing to life? What are you giving to the world? That's why, that's the meaning to life, is what you can provide to the world. And so when you find that out, when you find your purpose, that's the most powerful thing, because the impossible becomes possible. I never thought I would ever be on TV. I never thought like I would ever write a book. And now I'm 18 years old and I've written a book and I'm going on TV tomorrow. And like, these are things that you would think like, no, that's impossible. There's no way.
Right.
Here I am.
Yeah.
And it only goes up and up and up, and it only gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Because once I set that goal, like, I'm going to write a book. Well, I did it. Now what? Well, I got to set a bigger goal, right? And then I keep setting these goals to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And every goal is something I'd love to do. And it just grows me more as a person. So I can't stress how important it is to find your purpose and find out what you want to do in your life, because that's what's going to carry you. When like nobody wants average. Nobody, like, you don't want average friends. Like, you don't want your friends to come over and, just be average, right? Or you don't want average relationships, like your husbands or wives. Like, you don't want them to just be average husbands or wives, right? But you get what you give. So if you want to find your purpose, if you want to live a fulfilled life, like imagine this. You're laying on your deathbed, okay? And you're looking back in your life and you're like, man, what are some of the most proud accomplishments I have? You want to be able to just like talk about those things. You just want to rattle them off. And then you're going to think about all the opportunities that you missed. So that's why it's also important to never miss any opportunities. And so when you get opportunities, like when you find your purpose, you will see that every door just swings wide open. And now it's up to you to jump on those opportunities, because a lot of people can identify their purpose and not act on it. Yeah. I'd say 90% of people don't even know what their purpose is in life. Actually, as a matter of fact, that's the 12%. That 12% I mentioned at the beginning, 12% of people find purpose in their life. So that's real statistics right there. So 12%. All right. So the other 88% don't even know what their purpose is in life. Okay, so then you take that 88%. I'd say out of that 88% that don't know their purpose, or let's say the 12% that do know their purpose, let's take them. I'd say 8% of them actually act on their purpose, and then another 5% actually do more with, once they find their purpose, they actually keep taking it up and up and up and up and up and keep walking up that ladder of success. And so few people see that. So few people actually, once they identify their purpose, actually act on it. And once they do act on it, they don't know where to start, or they don't know what to do next. And then once they find some direction, they end up either getting lost, or they learn and they find mentors and they do the right things at the right times, and they find the ways to succeed. And now if you're doing what you love to do and you're happy and you're successful, like I mentioned in those 3 areas, right? Your relationships are good, your physical health is good, and your finances are good. Like, you don't have to be the richest person on the planet to be happy.
Right.
Right? You don't have to be the healthiest person on the planet to be happy. You don't have to have the best relationships to be happy. But if you're constantly improving in all of those, I read a quote the other day. It said, if you improve 1% every single day, in 1 year, you'll be 365% better.
Yeah.
Right. So if you take that principle to your relationships, and you take that to your finances and your work and what you're doing, as long as you're constantly improving in those 3 areas, that's what makes you successful. You don't have to be Bill Gates. You don't have to be Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, but it comes down to how you feel. Like, if you're happy, making $50,000 a year, and your relationships are great, and you're playing fantasy football, and you enjoy going to the movies with your family, and you're happy, that's purpose. That's success.
You mentioned, you mentioned that in your process of finding purpose, you wrote the book, and then you have to ask the question, well, what's next? So I guess my question around that is, do you approach kind of the purpose thing from, this is the big picture, I'm going to create milestones or my small steps in that process? Or do you kind of go, this is the next thing on the horizon, I'm focused on this thing, and then when I get there, I'll look at what the next thing is? Or a combination
Sure.
of both?
So what that is, and like I mentioned, I've taught at leadership conferences around the world and taught the principles of leadership. And one thing that they always teach, now the only addition that I would have to this is adding on purpose, but here's the process to success. And now this like, everybody listening right now, I have to tell you that this is the most important thing you'll ever do in your life, is understand these 3 steps. It's planning, goals, and vision. Those 3 things, and understanding how they work, and I'll explain it real quick. So planning, goals, and vision. You start at the end. You start with your vision, all right? And you literally ask yourself, and I write about this in my book, you have to ask yourself, in the future, I see myself as blank, and fill in the blank. In the future, I see myself on television. In the future, I see myself as a published author. Okay? And you work your way back from there. So once you have that vision, what that does is it gives you direction. When you have a vision, it gives you direction. Okay? So once you have that direction of where you want to go in life, like, for instance, let's take the best archer on the planet, someone that shoots bows and arrows.
Right.
If you ask them to shoot 3 bullseyes, they'll probably do it every single time.
Right.
And now let's put a blindfold on them, spin them in a circle, and then ask them to shoot 3 bullseyes. Obviously, they're not going to hit it, because why? They can't see. They literally don't have a vision. And it's the exact same thing in life. Once you find your vision, it gives you a target. It gives you something to aim at. Now, you may miss it. You may hit it. But don't let that discourage you. At least you're going in the right direction. You're not shooting backwards when you should be shooting in front of yourself, right? And one of my good quotes is, it's impossible to know where you want to be if you don't even know where you're going.
Right.
And so then so that's vision, right? You have to, and you got to dream big. Like, this has got to be like, in the future, I see myself as the president of the United States, whatever it is. Like, as I said, the impossible can become the possible if you follow these 3 steps. So your vision is something big. So some of my past visions were, write a book, get on TV, start a company. So those are some of my past visions. And then they became a reality because I followed this process. And so then the next thing is goal setting. Okay. Now, I'm not talking just SMART goals, and I'm sure people have heard of that, the SMART thing. But I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about, like, primary and secondary goals. All right. You got to have if I want to get on TV, what do I have to do first? If I want to write a book, what do I have to do first? And so, like, the primary goal would be, okay, write a book. The secondary goal would be create an outline, research each chapter, write out the stories for each chapter. Those are your secondary goals. So you have to hit the secondary goals before you hit the primary goal. And then you can incorporate that SMART goal thing. So that's like specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And that is, you make reasonable goals. And so you set those goals to get to that end result, like writing your book. So, and then you do other things along the way, like have your accountability partners, incorporate your mentors and things like that. So that's, everything all ties together in one way. And then you get to planning. So you got to plan it out, right? If you want to go on a road trip across the United States, you got to plan it out. Like, when are we going to get gas? How are we going to, where are we going to stay at night? Are we staying with our friends and family in the area, or are we going, if you're going from New York to California, you got to plan that out. And it's exactly the same way as if you want to be the president of the United States. You got to plan it out. Like, first I'm going to be a mayor, then a senator, then, and you plan it out. So that's the process that I went through. When I was starting a company or writing a book or getting on television, I set those goals. I had the vision of me, like I pictured myself, with my jacket on, on set, on television, talking with the anchors, and just talking about whatever it is I'm doing at the time. And I pictured that in my mind, and I said, okay, if I want that, that's my vision, that's the direction I'm headed, what is my goal? Okay, my goal, I gotta get on television. How am I going to do that? Okay, I got to call the radio stations. I got to get on some podcasts. I got to get mentioned in some articles. I got to get some what's called bona fides or credibility to back it up. And then once I got that, then it was easy to get on television. It was literally like a phone call. I was like, hey, I'd love to, I'm a new published author. I'm new to the area. I'd love to get on your show and come talk about my book and provide value to your listeners. And it was easy, it just became this process, and it was simple because I followed that 3-step process: planning, goals, and vision.
Well, let's talk about your book. It's called A Journey with Purpose. Tell us what it's about and who it's for.
Absolutely. So it's called A Journey with Purpose. The subtitle is A Guide to Starting and Succeeding as an Entrepreneur.
Okay.
And the book is primarily for young entrepreneurs like myself. I wrote it from the bottom of my heart, what I felt, what I feel, what I've experienced in my journey so far. And it's really for entrepreneurs or people. Like I said, when I'm seeking out people to mentor, I'm looking for initiative, people that want to do something with their life but don't know how. This is the book for you. Because what it does is, chapter by chapter, the first 2 chapters, you identify your purpose. You figure out, what's going to wake me up in the morning.
Right.
What's going to keep me energized? What's going to keep me going when I'm on the floor? What's going to get me up? What's going to keep me going? And that's what the first couple chapters are. And then I start tackling issues like, how do you use your purpose to overcome failure? How do you use your purpose to pick a career? How do you turn your purpose into a career? And I walk through chapter by chapter each and every one of those steps. And my objective with it is, after you read one of the chapters, the next chapter answers the questions you'll be thinking after you read that chapter. So when you're reading, one of the chapters that talks about starting and just doing it and getting out there and putting yourself out there, the next chapter is like, okay, what happens when I face failure or setbacks or haters or naysayers or people that doubt me? What do I do next? And that next chapter answers that question, and it walks you step by step through your journey so that you can use your purpose to create your own journey with a purpose.
What do you want, the one thing, if a person's reading it, what is the one takeaway that you really want them to get from it? What do you hope that they achieve from reading the book?
The one thing, the whole pinnacle, like, if you take anything away from my book, it is understand what the one thing you love to do, you're good at, you can get paid doing, and you can use to change the world. Identify that. Like, if you do anything else after reading my book, that is the one thing I want you to walk away with, is the ability to understand, and you may not start today, you may not start a week, you may not start a month or even years after reading my book, but at least you understand, if I want to turn this into a career, or if I want to turn this into a lifelong thing and change my life, I know what my purpose is in life. And so taking away a new understanding of yourself is something that I want all of the readers to have once they finish reading my book.
That's really, really good. Tell us about your other book, or not your other book, your other company, TQuotes. It's a clothing line. It's got really cool shirts. I was on there earlier today checking them out. The designs are awesome. Tell us about it, the inspiration for it, and kind of that whole journey of creating it.
Absolutely. So TQuotes is a limited liability company. It was founded on this idea that I had. I was doing motivational speaking. I was talking to friends and doing these leadership conferences. Excuse me. And I was doing all these things, and I was like, what if I went to a show and I gave the audience a shirt with like a quote from the seminar or a quote from this speech that I just gave? What if I gave them a shirt that kind of summarizes everything? And so I was like, so I messaged a couple friends and I was like, guys, why don't we just turn this into a company, like a t-shirt company?
Yeah.
And what if people, want to create their own quotes, or what if they're inspired by, Thomas Edison's, never give up after, or I found 10,000 ways not to do something. Like if someone's inspired by their quotes, why don't they put their quotes on and they can design their own? And so it just fell into this avalanche of ideas. We were like, oh yeah, and then we can do this and this. What if people just want to customize a shirt? Well, then we can do that.
Yeah.
And so then it just became this process of me and a couple, 4 good friends. We were like, guys, let's do this. Why don't we turn this into a company? And so then, like, within 2 months, we had registered as an entity. We had, started this t-shirt company, and we had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea. We had barely any money to like put into it. We had to seek out investors. We had to learn taxes and company taxes. We had no prior knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is one of those limiting beliefs. I want to touch on this real quick. That many young entrepreneurs have. They think, oh, I'm not creative enough, or I'm not good enough, or no, I don't know anything about business. Well, like, that's why I encourage people, just start. Like, throw yourself into the deep end. You're young. Like, you can make these mistakes now. You don't have to, not. I mean, and I'm by young, I'm talking anywhere from like 5 years old to 30. Like, if you're in that range, you have time. And before 18, you have even more opportunity, because you don't have to pay bills necessarily. You don't have to do those things. You have time to mess up and still become a success. And that failure is what will create that success. That failure, and I talk about this in my book, and overcoming that failure is so important in becoming successful. But and that's what happened to us. Like, we had no idea what the heck we were doing. We were like, oh, let's spend money on business cards, or like, let's go do all these things. And we started hustling sales. Like, we messaged everybody on our Facebook accounts, all 4 of us. We messaged like 1,000 people in total, probably.
Wow.
And we made sales off of it, and it worked. And we were like, okay, great. Like, I don't know what we're doing, but we're doing it. And then it just kept growing. And then if you looked at our first website and you look at our website now, it's total difference. Like, the difference is uncomparable. Like, you cannot, like, it's crazy. Like, our company has just grown over, and we haven't even been doing it a year yet. And so, we're coming into our 4th quarter soon in October, and and we're making these crazy sales off of messaging people on social media. We have a company Instagram, Facebook page, all of it. And also, I wanted the main thing, the pinnacle of TQuotes, like, the one thing it's mainly about is, like I said, giving back. Like, as the CEO and founder of the company, my main primary goal was, it's in our slogan, it's changing the world one shirt at a time. And so we do that in a multitude of ways. Our company is the corporate sponsor of the largest student-run philanthropy in the world for cancer research. My company gives 10% of all profits to different service organizations around the US. And we're starting this new project, and I'll give you some insight into this before we do it. We're starting what we're calling the Africa Project,
Okay.
where we're going to donate every 10 shirts purchased, one shirt is going to be donated to clothing tribes and people in Africa.
Yeah.
And so that's something we're working on. We're still working out the details there, but that's something coming up on our horizons, and ultimately changing the world one shirt at a time through custom t-shirts and motivational quotes and everything that we stand for as a team and as a company.
That's very, very cool. It's a cool company. If you're listening, you should go check it out. Check out the shirts that they're creating. It's super cool. Before we dive into the rapid questions, I have two kind of final questions for you. One of them is about your generation. We hear a lot about the millennial generation and all of that, but you technically fall into what they call Generation Z, also known as Centennials or iGeneration, iGen, post-millennials, or in the United States, the Homeland generation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you consider yourself, if you consider yourself a millennial or in that second pocket of post-millennial or in a transitional generation. There's a lot of negativity around millennials, and there's a lot of negativity from millennials to the boomer and Gen X generation. Here's my question. You're young, you are adventurous, you're creating something. Your worldview is it's shaped a little bit differently than the average, I think, person your age because of your experience with growing up in the military, seeing the world, being an Eagle Scout. Those add different layers of formation of worldview there for you. What's your view of this generation, your generation, and what would you want others to know about that, whether they're older or younger than you?
That's a great question. That's absolutely probably one of the best questions I've been asked on an interview. I think my opinion, my worldview of our generation is I firmly believe that there's going to be two groups of people.
Okay.
There's going to be the suppliers and the demanders. And I strongly encourage, we see this happening today, that more people are turning to self-employment, entrepreneurship, and
right.
People are becoming, breaking away from the traditional 9-to-5, and people are starting to do their own thing and recognizing that, I can do so much with all the technology. Everything that's arising is making it so much easier for people to do their own thing. So what I'm seeing is there's going to be the consumers, the people that try to take that traditional route. And there's nothing wrong with that. I still think there's security in doing that. But there's the people that are going to go on to do great things. I just got an Instagram message from a guy today who's 17 years old, making millions.
Wow.
And he was like, hey, I want to work with you so we can do things. And that's what I mean. He's 17 years old.
Wow.
And we're making this connection because we have the supplier idea. Like, we want to give back. We want to provide value to each other, help each other out. And then on the alternative is I have those friends, I have those people that, I just want to go to school. I want to do my own thing. I want to get a job in the field that I get my degree in, and I just want to pay the bills and live my life. And there's security in that, but not necessarily happiness. And ultimately, I want people to love what they do, and I want them to be finding fulfillment, purpose, value, joy from the things that they are doing every single day. And so I feel like there's going to be that divide of people that are taking this traditional route but are super unhappy, and then the people that are they're starting now. I mean, there's this movement going on right now. From Caleb Maddox, he started a movement called Summa Success, and he's teaching kids from 5 years old to before, 13, 14 age. And he's showing them, and these kids are making thousands of dollars. And it's this movement for kids. By the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Caleb Maddox here. If you have a kid in that age range, sign up for Suma Success, because that is something that's a huge movement. And that's the new generation. Like, that's what's coming to fruition, and that's going to be the reality. Is there's going to be the suppliers and then the demanders, the people that, are just getting through life as if it's this obstacle, and then there's other people that are going through life looking at it as a series of opportunities. And I think that divide is just going to get greater and greater through this generation.
That's so good. You are obviously very driven, very motivated. Where do you want to go from here? You've built a company, you've built a brand, you've authored a book. That's a lot for someone that's so young. What's on the horizon for you?
So my next steps are, my next big goal is I want a couple things. I want to get on national television. I'm getting on some local TV here and there, but I want to get on national television. I want to meet Tony Robbins in person.
Okay.
I want to also meet another motivational speaker. His name's Eric Thomas. He's been a huge inspiration to me, so I really want to meet him in person. I also, by 21 years old, I want to be multimillionaire, not for the money. Like, I want to impact 1 million lives before 21.
Wow.
I want to impact over 1 million people before I become a millionaire. And I also want to be able to start a scholarship for Eagle Scouts pursuing entrepreneurship.
That's cool.
So it's a $50,000 scholarship that I'm creating on the horizons coming up here by 21 years old. I'm going to have I'll still be in college at that point, but I'm creating a college scholarship for Eagle Scouts.
Yeah.
Over $50,000 scholarship for Eagle Scouts pursuing entrepreneurship. And that's, one of those things that I want to do to give back. So those are some things coming up that I'm working on that are my big vision, like I mentioned. And, I'm setting goals to get there. So that's what's coming up.
How can somebody connect with you?
Oh, and I encourage people to connect with me. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the Leland Jones. I got a Facebook page, Instagram page, and a Twitter page. If you get my book, in the back of the book, there's an email specifically for the people that read the book. So I'm not going to give that away, but if you get the book and you read it, on the very last page is an email for the people that read the book, and you can connect to me personally through that email, and I will respond and I will answer any of the questions you have after reading the book. Another way you can contact me is go to any of my websites. You can go to TQuotesOnline.com. Again, that's TQuotesOnline.com. Go to the Contact Us page, and right there, I'm the first picture. You can hit any of my social media account links. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, just about any social media that there is. Find me, contact me, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to talk to you, answer your questions, and provide value however I can. I want to give back. I want to help you. And if you want something new in your life, if you want to change your life, I will do absolutely everything I can do to help you and provide value to you.
That's great. And we'll put the links on the episode notes, as we always do, to make sure people can easily connect with you.
Right on.
Let's jump into some rapid fire questions. These are fun questions that we ask every episode, every guest on every episode. So let's dive in.
All right.
What's one step someone can take to chase their big idea or dream and they simply don't know where to start?
Start. That's my answer.
Okay.
Just start.
That's great. I like it. What's one area in the world you'd like to see change?
One area of the world that I would like to see change. People valuing personal development. I want to see more people understanding themselves and developing themselves, becoming the best version of themselves they can absolutely be.
I say this often when I ask this next question, but I mean it more this time than ever. You are super young. And so you may have not asked this question or thought this question through in the past, but here it is. What do you want your legacy to be?
When I'm on my deathbed and I look back, I want to be remembered for a couple things. For my family, I want to be remembered as the best dad ever. So, yeah, that's one thing. In the business world, I want to be known as the guy that gave everything for others, that would do anything for his followers, for the people that connected with him, or anybody that came in contact with me. I want to be able to, I don't want like a personal manager to answer my emails. Like I
Right.
want to do it no matter how many, even if I have millions of followers. I want to be known as a guy that connects with everybody one to one and somehow can provide value to every single one of his followers.
To me, that's super honoring when people don't forget where they came from, because none of us
Right.
start. Well, okay, there are some people who start in families that are super wealthy and successful and they just walk into it. But the vast majority of people who are killing it out in the world today, they started
Mm.
somewhere that was much more humble than where they are today. So to
Right.
hear you
Oh
say
yeah.
that, I just encourage you, definitely do that. I'm in the same boat. I say the same thing where I'm like, I don't want to be unaccessible from people, because
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
everything, the most significant thing in the world is the person in front of you.
Right. Absolutely.
I think that's an awesome perspective. Please keep it on your journey.
Will do.
Who inspires you?
Oh man. I gotta say, off the top of my head, first is definitely my parents. Like my parents have sacrificed so much and given me so many opportunities and encouraged me. Like when I didn't want to take an opportunity, they were like, "You're missing out on a big opportunity." Then I took it, and it ended up prevailing. So I gotta say that they have been phenomenal at leaving their legacy as parents and providing their kids. I have a brother and a sister as well, to do great things in their life. So he's been an amazing inspiration, and to this day, like he still is like, "Hey, you should wear this before you go on TV. Like you should say these things." Like, So, and he's constantly just there for me, and he's a coach, and so that's one thing. Um, Another is my mentors. Two of them specifically, they're actually in the dedication of my book. Um, is TC, or Thew Christiansen is his name. He's been a great mentor. He's taught me a lot in the business perspective, because like I said, I had no idea what I was doing when I was starting a company, and he showed me some insight into what it actually is. And another one is, his name's Glenn Kitzman. He's in Singapore. He's just been a great friend, mentor, advice giving family friend. And he's, anytime I needed anything, whether it was business related or not, he was always there, and he always gave sound advice that I would never take for granted.
That's really,
And then,
really good.
yeah, and in the people that like inspire me that um, I don't necessarily know on a personal level are kids like Caleb Maddox.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome. Motivational speaker Eric Thomas, I mentioned him before. Um, and my favorite motivational speaker, just because he's funny, is Zig Ziglar.
Okay.
He's awesome. He's funny and he's great. So those are three guys that inspire me and make me want to be better at motivational speaking.
That's cool. What are you currently reading or watching, or listening to, for that matter?
Okay, sure. Yeah. The book that I'm reading right now, I'm actually reading a couple, but one that I would recommend to anybody listening right now, it's called .com Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Okay.
It is so awesome. It is such a great book. And a book that kind of applies to me, not necessarily, but it's by Caleb Maddox. It's called Keys to Success for Kids 2.0. I read his first one, and he wrote a second one, so I'm reading that right now. Those are two books. And then some videos that I'm watching. I always follow Eric Thomas and Caleb Maddox on social media, and also Grant Cardone. I'm following him now on YouTube and social media, and I'm watching and learning from them constantly. Yeah, those are some things. And then keeping myself updated with just what's going on in the world. That's just watching news. But
Yeah, that's good stuff. Every episode I end with this final question. What is one big dream you are still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
the big dream is to, man, One big dream. um, Man, I would say one of the biggest thing is to impact 1 million people at least
Wow.
before I'm 21 years old. Is to impact 1 million lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. Leland, I want to thank you for being on. It's been a lot of fun hearing your
Likewise.
story, hearing your insights and perspective into the world. So thanks for taking time
I
out
appreciate
to
it.
chat.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate making this happen. It's been awesome.
Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Leland Jones, for sharing a little bit about his story, some great insights, and truly inspiring us with all he's doing at such a young age. If you want to check out what Leland's working on, swing on over to jumblethink.com, check the episode notes for links to all of his websites and social media channels. On Thursday's episode, our guest is Andy Beckerman. He's a comedian, podcaster, writer, and just all-around cool and funny guy. In the episode, he shares about growing up Jewish in an Amish world and writing for television shows. It's a lot of fun, and I think you're going to enjoy this episode, so make sure to check it out this Thursday. We have some incredible guests lined up for the Jumblethink podcast, or maybe you've missed some of our past episodes. Either way, the best way to stay in touch is to subscribe to this podcast where you listen to your podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. There's so many other places that you can listen. We're in all of those places. Swing on over, subscribe. That way you never miss another Jumblethink episode. Hey, thanks again for tuning in. It's such a privilege to have you along the journey for the Jumblethink podcast. I know our guests appreciate it. I appreciate it. And hopefully you are getting something incredible out of each episode. I want to leave you with this one last thought. Leland shared in this episode the importance of passion and purpose. And I completely agree. It's so significant on each of our journeys. If you are struggling to find that passion and purpose, which sometimes it's hard to do, reach out to a friend, a mentor, a coach, someone you trust, or if you don't have anyone, we would love to help you on that journey. Any way you look at it, find someone to start walking you through that journey. When you find purpose, when you find passion, all of a sudden things unlock in you. Destiny opens and you begin to live a life that's unexpected and so much larger than you could ever imagine. I want to encourage you, go find that passion, go find that purpose. It will change your life. Thanks for tuning in. Now go out there and create the world you want to live in.
Peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps. Vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.